Hey boys and girls, this is Mr. Slates coming to you, and we are ready to start Logic of English Lesson 7. We're going to start out with a phonogram review today, and I want to remind you that we want to be doing these to the point where it becomes so automatic, we don't even have to think about it. Like when you ride a bike now, where you don't even think about it. You could ride a bike, you could be drinking at the same time, you could be talking to your friends. All of it is so automatic that you don't even have to think. So I'm going to say the sounds today, and I want you to repeat them so we make sure that they are completely accurate. You ready? Say oi that we may not use at the end of a word. Oi that we may use at the end of a word. A that we may not use at the end of a word. A that we may use at the end of a word. Say R. Oo, o. Oo, o. Ch, k, sh. Or. E, a. E. K. Sh. Z. Z. G, j. K, s. Y, I, e. E. I, e. O, u. U, u. A. Which brings us to our two new sounds. I'm going to take them off my ring so you can see them. Do you see these two? What do you notice the same about both of these phonograms? Can everyone see that there's an O in both of them, right? And they actually both make the exact same sound. Say O. Now let's talk about the difference between these two. This is the O that may not be used at the end of English words. So say O that may not be used at the end of words. Now look, that kind of goes against our rule about English words not ending in I, U, V, or J, right? Do you see an I, U, V, or J at the end of this phonogram? No. So it's not a spelling rule that is making it so that this can't be at the end of words. It just never is. You will never see this at the end of an English word. Be careful, English word. There is a word, cocoa, like hot cocoa, which has this at the end, but it is not an English word. Okay, this one also goes O. And in one word, it goes oo. Look at the back of my card. I'm going to zoom in. Do you see how it says toe and shoe, oo? In that word shoe, it makes an oo sound. But almost all the other times, it says O, and it can be at the end of English words. Okay, we're going to do a quick review of rules, and then we're going to go to this word and talk about what's going on. Okay? So say A, E, O, U, say their name at the end of a syllable. Can you say it? Now I want to point out, they usually say their name at the end of the syllable. They don't have to, they usually. Say ga may soften to ja when followed by E, I, or Y. Ga may soften to ja when followed by E, I, or Y. Z, never S, spells Z at the beginning of a base word. Say Z, never S, spells Z at the beginning of a base word. C always softens to S when followed by E, I, or Y. Can you say that? C always softens to S when followed by E, I, or Y. We often double F, L, or S. Say it. We often double F, L, or S after a single short or broad vowel, after a single short or broad vowel, at the end of a base word, at the end of a base word. Now notice the word is often. which for those of you that don't know what that means, that doesn't mean always. It means often, quite a lot. Last one. English words do not end in I-U-V-J. Say it. English words do not end in I, U, V, or J. Now, we're going to go to this word and talk about what's happening. Some third grade students found this word in one of their textbooks, and it's the word gallery. Gallery. And they came to me about our Waldo rule. Because if you remember right, we talked about in the Waldo rule that A can say ah when it's at the end, but it also can say ah after a W and before an L. And so their question was, why is this gallery and not gallery, the third sound? So we need to talk about what's going on in this word. Well, here's what's going on. Let's look at the back of our rule, our Waldo rule. See if you notice the word always. It says, when a word ends with the phonogram A, it says ah. A may also say ah after a W or before an L. Now question, did it say A may always or A always says ah after a W or before an L? No, it never said always. It said may, and may means might or most likely, but it doesn't mean always. So in this word gallery, if I were to break it into its syllables, watch what I would do. Gal, ler, e. It's 3 syllables. Gallery. So this is going ah, it's not going ah. Now there's an L here. So all these third graders have all been concerned. It's not following the rule. It's supposed to go ah, right? Gallery. Now it could be that a long time ago they may have called it gallery. But it didn't say on our rule that it had to say ah. It just said it may. I think something else is going on here too. If you notice, to split up these syllables, we put that G here and that L there, and it closes in the A. And remember, when a syllable is closed in, or when a vowel is closed in the syllable between 2 consonants, it usually says it's short sound, ah. Okay? So that is what's happening in this word. It doesn't say in the rule that they have to say ah, and which is why it's probably saying ah. Gallery, gallery. Does that make sense? Okay, now you're going to watch a quick video on a new rule. And guess what? Oh my goodness. Makes me think of lazy again. Lazy schwa again. But this time, we're going to watch something specifically on the lazy O. It's time to talk about the lazy O. We've learned that any vowel may say its lazy sound in an unstressed syllable. But the O sometimes says the lazy sound in a stressed syllable for a different reason. Long before there were computers or copy machines, all books were copied by hand. Scribes would spend months copying each book, word by word. Very few people knew how to read, and even fewer could afford to buy a book. Books were expensive. In some libraries, books were chained to the table to keep people from stealing them. In one part of the world, scribes faced a big problem. People complained that so many straight lines next to one another made it really hard to read. They especially complained about words like this: mother, one, cover, and month. When people saw all the straight up and down lines in a row, they said, "These lines are hard to read. What letters are these?" The readers, they were sad, confused, angry. They didn't want to figure out all those lines. They were being lazy. Then the clever scribes had an idea. They decided that whenever they heard the sound next to a W, TH, M, N, or V, they would spell it with the round O. The O would make an sound. Because the scribes were trying to solve a problem with reading too many straight up and down lines all those years ago, many words today with the sound are still spelled with a lazy O next to a W, TH, M, N, or V. So when you see words like mother, from, wonder, or front, you know the O is being lazy. This leads to a new rule. O may say in a stressed syllable next to a W, TH, M, N, or V. So don't be confused like people from long ago. The O is just saying its schwa sound.
Created using Powtoon.
So is that true? Did scribes really start putting an O next to these letters, and now they still make an sound? It's what's called a theory, which means people think that might be a reason why, but no one is quite sure. But I thought it was a fun way to talk about our new rule. Now, if you look in your new Student Guides for Logic of English on page 97, it talks about the lazy O. So what you get to do on page 97 is look at the lazy O. It's making its sound. Now it says to highlight the O. Highlight means go over it in a lighter color like yellow or orange or pink or green. But you don't really have to highlight it. You could circle it or you could underline it. But here's the important part. I want you to work to see if you can figure out why the O is being lazy in those words. So you're going to look for a W, a TH, an M, an N, or a V. Look for those in each of these words. So let's look at our first word, mother. So if I'm using a highlighter, I would highlight that O because it is making its sound. It's being lazy. And then I'm going to look for the reason. What's the reason in mother that the O is making an It's because of that TH. So I can either underline or circle the TH. It's sort of like a search to see if you can figure out why the O is making its lazy sound. Have a good day.